Ethical dilemmas have been an inherent part of human existence since time immemorial. However, in the modern world, the rapidly evolving landscape of technology, medicine, business, and society has given rise to a new set of ethical challenges. These dilemmas are often complex and multifaceted, requiring thoughtful consideration and deliberation. In this narration, we will delve into several contemporary ethical dilemmas, exploring real-world cases that exemplify the intricacies of our moral compass in the 21st century.
Before we dive in, if you find this content valuable, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment below. It truly helps us grow. Now, let's get started.
Artificial intelligence and privacy concerns. Imagine a world where machines can predict your every move, analyze your habits, and even manipulate your decisions. This scenario may sound like science fiction, but in the age of artificial intelligence, it is becoming a reality. The case of social media platforms and their algorithms raises profound ethical questions about the boundaries of privacy. Platforms like Facebook and Google collect vast amounts of data about their users to tailor advertisements and content, but where should we draw the line? These platforms are faced with the dilemma of maximizing profits through personalized advertising while respecting individual privacy. The ethical challenge is clear: how do they balance the need for profit with the responsibility to protect user data and privacy? Genetic engineering and designer babies. The rapid advancement of genetic engineering technologies has paved the way for extraordinary possibilities, but it has also ignited a significant ethical debate. Consider the case of designer babies. Parents now have the option to select certain genetic traits for their children, such as physical appearance, intelligence, and even immunity to certain diseases. This raises questions about the potential consequences of creating a society where individuals are genetically enhanced. How far should we go in altering the course of human evolution? What impact might this have on notions of equality and diversity, climate change and environmental responsibility? Climate change presents one of the most pressing ethical dilemmas of our time. The case revolves around the responsibilities of individuals, corporations, and governments in the face of a global crisis. On one hand, we must consider the moral obligation to protect our planet for future generations. On the other hand, some argue that economic interests and development goals are equally important. Take, for instance, the debate surrounding the extraction of fossil fuels. While fossil fuels contribute significantly to global warming, they also drive economic growth and provide livelihoods for many. How do we strike a balance between environmental sustainability and economic well-being? Healthcare access and resource allocation. The COVID-19 pandemic spotlighted the ethical dilemma of healthcare resource allocation. In many countries, healthcare systems were stretched to their limits, and decisions had to be made about who received life-saving treatment and who did not. These decisions raised fundamental questions about distributive justice, prioritizing the most vulnerable, and the responsibility of healthcare professionals. When resources are limited, who should have priority access to medical care? Should age, socioeconomic status, or other factors be considered? How can we ensure that healthcare remains equitable and just, even in times of crisis? Artificial intelligence in criminal justice. Artificial intelligence is also being applied to the criminal justice system. Algorithms are used to predict recidivism, determine sentences, and make parole decisions. The ethical dilemma arises from the potential for bias and discrimination embedded in these algorithms. Consider the case of a young individual from a marginalized community who faces a harsher sentence based on an algorithm's prediction, while someone from a more privileged background receives a lighter sentence for a similar offense. How do we ensure that AI systems in criminal justice are fair and just, and do not perpetuate existing inequalities? Autonomous vehicles and moral decisions. Self-driving cars are on the horizon, and with them come a unique ethical dilemma. These vehicles are programmed to make split-second decisions that could mean life or death for the occupants and pedestrians. For example, if a collision is imminent, should an autonomous car prioritize the safety of its passengers or pedestrians? The moral programming of autonomous vehicles forces us to confront questions about the value of human life, accountability for accidents, and the role of technology in making life or death decisions. Data privacy and surveillance. Mass surveillance and the collection of personal data have become increasingly prevalent in the digital age. Governments, corporations, and even hackers have access to vast amounts of private information, leading to concerns about individual freedoms and civil liberties. The ethical dilemma centers around the balance between national security and individual privacy. How much surveillance is justifiable in the name of protecting society, and at what point does it become an invasion of privacy and a threat to democracy? Animal rights and factory farming. Factory farming practices have raised profound ethical concerns about the treatment of animals. The conditions in which many animals are raised and slaughtered are often deplorable. Advocates for animal rights argue that we have a moral obligation to ensure the welfare of animals. The images of overcrowded, unsanitary conditions and inhumane treatment in factory farms have sparked outrage and activism. The dilemma lies in the conflict between the demand for affordable food and the ethical treatment of animals. On one hand, factory farming has enabled the production of meat at a scale that meets the global demand, keeping food prices relatively low. On the other hand, the ethical treatment of animals and the environmental impact of factory farming weigh heavily on our conscience. The environmental consequences of factory farming include deforestation, greenhouse gas emissions, and water pollution, contributing to climate change and environmental degradation. Thus, this ethical dilemma extends beyond animal welfare to encompass broader environmental and sustainability issues. As we grapple with this complex ethical question, we must explore alternative farming methods, such as sustainable and ethical farming practices, and consider the long-term effects of our choices on the welfare of animals, the environment, and future generations. Striking a balance between affordable food production and ethical treatment of animals is a challenge that calls for innovation and collective responsibility in our quest for a more ethical and sustainable food system. Euthanasia and end-of-life decisions. The debate over euthanasia and assisted suicide is another deeply divisive ethical issue. While some argue for the right to control one's own death in the face of unbearable suffering, others raise concerns about the potential for abuse and the sanctity of life. The ethical dilemma revolves around the balance between an individual's autonomy to make end-of-life decisions and the responsibility of society and the medical profession to preserve life. Refugee crisis and national borders. The ongoing global refugee crisis poses a moral challenge to nations and individuals alike. As millions of people flee violence and persecution, countries are faced with decisions about whether and how to provide refuge. The dilemma lies in the tension between national sovereignty and the ethical responsibility to assist those in need. What are the moral duties of nations when it comes to welcoming refugees, and how can we address the complex issues of immigration and borders? In conclusion, contemporary ethical dilemmas are as diverse as the challenges of our modern world. They require thoughtful reflection, empathy, and an understanding of the consequences of our choices. These cases illustrate the complexities of our moral decision-making in the 21st century and the ongoing need for ethical discourse and guidance in an ever-changing world. As we navigate these dilemmas, we must strive to uphold the values of justice, compassion, and fairness, ensuring that our decisions align with our shared vision of a better future for all.